Hello everyone, this is StrawberryShorty here with a review of Telltale's Batman Season 2, The Enemy Within, played on the PS4. So, can't really say too much about the plot. I'll just say Batman has to go undercover to stop a deadly new threat to Gotham, and pretty much just leave it at that. There are thankfully, like, if you saw my review for the first game, I experienced so many technical glitches, mostly in the form of audio issues, but there were some visual problems as well, like a character model being invisible for a scene, a woman missing the back of her head, stuff like that. And other people were experiencing these too, so this wasn't like an issue with me. Thankfully, Enemy Within did not really have any of these problems. The only visual glitch I experienced, only glitch at all I think I experienced, was there was a scene where we're in a car and you can't see out the windows, and you're clearly supposed to be able to. It was very weird. I'm not sure why it did that. But that was it. So, you know, like, compared to Season 1, I can't really complain. I still overall like the QTEs in this game. They're still very forgiving, and it's very clear what buttons you have to press. They did add a new type of thing where you have to hit, like, they'll show multiple buttons on screen and you have to hit each one. It's not hard. One feature I think that a lot of people will appreciate is that you'll get many battle QTEs that allow for two different options. Like, you'll be dealing with, like, an enemy, and it's like you can choose to, like, grapple them or kick them or hit them with something, and this will happen a lot where you just get different ways you can take down an enemy. And it's not like these are, like, these don't really affect the story, but it's like it is a choice to be able to change things up a little bit. So I do think that's interesting. Story-wise, it's hard to say if I like this more than Season 1's story. They continue to do some really interesting things with known Batman villains. John Doe from the previous game comes back and plays a bigger role, and I think what they do with him is extremely interesting. Like, 'cause the Joker is a villain I never really cared about personally. I know a lot of people love him, but I had other villains I liked way more. But I really liked him in this. I thought the different relationships you could have with him throughout the season were pretty cool. And since we're talking about story, we might as well address choices. Do they matter? And I would say they matter more than your typical Telltale game. I don't know that they matter too much overall. Like, I saw a Let's Player get, like, a completely different scene that I never got. Like, a scene involving a certain character who helped them out, and I ended up getting a completely different scene because I had picked something different earlier on. Now, there's not a lot of instances of this, but it was something worth noting. And, like, there's a conversation you could have with a certain character, and you give them some advice, and, like, the advice they gave led to a similar scene where you're talking with them, but it played out entirely differently than in mine. I would say the big thing choice-wise is that depending on some very crucial moments in Episode 4, Episode 5 can be entirely different. There are two versions of Episode 5, and I mean two versions. Like, these two versions of Episode 5 are 99% completely different episodes. They're the ending, the very, very, very end of the episode has, like, one or two same choices, but those make sense. Most of the episode is completely unique. So there is like a reason to replay episode 5 in particular. And I do really like that. I have yet to watch the alternate playthrough of episode 4. I just skimmed through someone else's playthrough to make sure it was indeed completely different. Like, yeah, it is. Like the encounters, the locations, it looks like everything that happens is like really different. So I'm super curious to check that out. They also added a sort of relationships mechanic where at the end, along with getting all your choice information, they'll throw up different like relationship things for each character, and just be like, yeah, hey, you left this character like this, and they could be like happy with you or angry with you or worried about you. This was interesting. Only downside to it is I don't think there were a lot of options. Like, I think with most of the characters you can leave them one or two different ways depending on the episode. So, but I still did kind of like it. I thought it looked cool. And yeah, I will say overall I really did like this season. It's hard to compare it to the first purely in terms of story. Like, if we take the technical issues into account, it would definitely be better. But I think it's definitely one of the best games Telltale has ever done. Just, I liked it that much. I think that might be all there is to say about the gameplay. Like, not really... Oh, I know what else I wanted to say. I'm going to throw out that one complaint I did have is that it's very detached from Season 1. Like, they do this, the Season 1 events do get some mention, but that's it. Like, I don't want to touch upon any Season 1 spoilers in this part of the review. They will come up for the spoiler section. But, like, if you're hoping to get closure regarding any character that is not John Doe from Season 1, that's not gonna really happen. They do have a little bit of, like, updates for, like... Well, they technically give updates on all the villains, but that's it. Like, if you're expecting return appearances and stuff like that, it's not gonna happen. And I'm not really crazy about that. In some ways it makes sense, but like there's one kind of unresolved thing that, like, given the way this season can end, like, it doesn't feel like there would be a Batman Season 3. But, so, that having been said, we're gonna jump into the spoiler section now, which will mostly be me just kind of rambling about the choices that I made and trying to remember everything that happened. So, first episode, The Enigma. And we meet our new villain, who is the Riddler. This portrayal of him is kind of interesting. He was another villain I never really cared about. I don't really know what to make of this one. I love his mugshot. He looks like such a smug jerk kind of character. I'm so annoyed that they never told us the answer to the riddle that he gives Maury. I did figure out the death riddle, and I don't agree with the answer to the other riddle that he's gave that dude, like, what question can you never answer yes to? And it's like, are you dead? And it's like, well, you can answer yes to that, you just will be lying. So I didn't like that. I know that's a really random thing to say, but that was a thing. And then we meet freaking, like, Amanda Waller, and I've never seen Suicide Squad. I've watched a review of Suicide Squad, and that left me with the impression that she's, like, a very untrustworthy character. And having met her, I believe she's a really untrustworthy character. I grappled away, because they didn't really give me any choices that I felt were appropriate, because it's like, I don't like this woman, but I also don't want to make trouble. And they didn't give me any, like, non-hostile-ish kind of options, so it's just like, oh, grapple away, bye. And I left. And then we're in the Batcave. I think I put on classical music. I don't know if anyone cares about that, but that's what I picked. It was nice seeing the slightly disturbing little shrine Batman has to his victims, or his the criminals he's caught. This is when we can look at the newspaper Gotham feed thing. I didn't like, that was one thing I should have mentioned for the earlier part of the review. I didn't like how the Gotham feed was handled here, because they do update it as you progress through the game, but you have to keep scrolling down. Like, it's not like in the first game where the articles themselves would change. Here, the previous articles are always available, but more get added to the bottom. So you will end up scrolling at a really slow pace for freaking ever to get to the new articles. But it is cool to kind of get the updates on what's going on in Gotham. And this is where you get updates with Cobblepot and Harvey. Cobblepot was sentenced to like 40 years in prison and is a model prisoner, apparently. And Harvey is supposed to be having a trial, but it keeps getting pushed back because his legal teams keep leaving, which is probably the other Harvey's fault. And so now he's going to be representing himself, and that's all we hear about him, but maybe that's for the best. Because I don't know if I want to know how the trial turns out. Although, to be honest, I kind of want to see that trial. Because that's going to be a defense right there. Like, because other Harvey is not going to just shut up. And depending what he's going for, like if he's trying to go for some kind of insanity plea, that might be for the best. But that is unfortunately like the last we hear of Harvey in this game. We do get an update on what's happening with Cobblepot, where he's basically just being a model prisoner to try and get parole. I don't know why they talk about him getting denied parole when it's only been like a year since the events of the first game. They also mentioned they never found Lady Arkham's body, and that's about it. We never learn what the heck happened to her. Not like I particularly want her to be dead, but it's kind of weird it's not addressed at all. Especially given the way this season ends anyway. So, we get a puzzle box from the Riddler, we solve it, and then it leads to Lucius's death via missile. And like, this scene to me is so weird, because all I could think of is, why didn't you run? Like, Lucius spends his last moments calling you and being like, oh, get Tiffany out of the building and tell her these last messages. And like, first of all, you could have called us via your phone instead of using your laptop, and you could have been like trying to run to safety. Because in the end, he was the only casualty. Like, a bunch of people got injured, but he was the only casualty. So you'd think he would have a chance if he just like left the puzzle box and just like ran. But he doesn't. He just stands there. And that did kind of ruin the moment for me. So we are at his funeral with his daughter Tiffany. She was mentioned offhandedly in the first game. And she wants to know, like, she just came to work for Wayne Enterprises, and Lucius was kind of talking about maybe adding her to Team Batman. And she wants to know that, like, what her father died, why her father died, and if it had to do with that puzzle box. And you can either be honest with her or lie to her. I chose to be honest. That's not considered one of the big episode choices. I don't know why, but I was honest with her, and she got really mad at me. But like, I don't want to lie in a situation like that, Like, I just feel like it would backfire. And then who shows up at the funeral but John, who's somehow been let out of Arkham. Like, the choice we made, that I made, to continue to add funding to Arkham to make it better. Like, Arkham still seems like it's not a really great place. It's addressed a few times, but that we did that. But I still feel like it's a terrible place. And then they go letting John out, and it's like, I don't think John should be out. And John doesn't feel like he should be out either. He gives us a really cute get well card, but he also causes some trouble inadvertently. And then we promise to go meet his friends, who I'm sure are upstanding and wonderful people. And so we end up like getting out of there, and then we're trying to find a lead on the Riddler, and we can ask his henchman dude, or we can ask the guy that he was attacking, who's also a criminal. I chose to go after the guy he attacked, because the henchman guy really seemed to hate us, and it's just like, let's just avoid that. So I went after him, and He said he would help us if we got him paid to get him out of the city. And like we could betray the deal we made with him and just take the information, but I ended up going through with it, and I probably shouldn't have, but it's just like I don't want this dangerous guy coming after me. Like, I got enough problems. But yeah. So look at my choices thing here. So yeah, that happened. Also, we're team Gordon here. Like, anytime it's Waller versus Gordon, we're typically siding with Gordon. Because why would you side with Waller? Riddler kidnaps a bunch of agents, including some new characters, Agent Avesta and Blake. I think Blake is his last name. We don't really know either of these characters too well, but like we're forced into this like choice where we have to answer riddles and we risk killing Avesta or killing the agents. And like I chose to basically risk Avesta's safety because she flat out tells us like to answer and put her at risk because she doesn't want the other agents to die. So she ends up losing her hearing as a result, but she gets superpowered hearing aids, so she can hear again. Still upsetting for her, but like, you know, she's alive. Oh, Riddler's dead. He gets killed. I did actually know going into this who Riddler's killer was, but it's oddly like not really mentioned much. Like, it's such an afterthought. Like, just nobody seems to really super care about this dude's death. Let's go my choices thing. So, by the end of this episode, my relationship with Gordon was steadfast. Because he appreciated me backing him up in front of Waller. He was suspicious when I didn't want to talk about Lucius, but he did apologize, so our relationship wasn't ruined. Like you know, the whole "I'm sorry for your loss" thing, because we did kind of admit Lucius was our friend. And we took his side against Waller's, so he's steadfastly loyal, as it should be. Oh, our Alfred is vengeful. Poor traumatized Alfred. He's proud that we're doing the right thing with the Riddler, but seeing Lucius killed made him vengeful. And he admires that we did what it had to do to get that drive containing the information about Riddler. Relationship with Waller is strained. She's not happy we defended Gordon. She's furious we helped her witness get away. And she is only working with us begrudgingly. I'm fine with that. I don't like her. Tiffany's furious. She's happy we told her she could help with the puzzle box. She's consoled we were concerned for her at the funeral, but because we told her the truth about endangering Lucius, she feels betrayed. John is ecstatic. John is like one of the only happy people in this episode. Pleased to see us at the funeral. Proud of himself for choosing a card that we liked, and he's ecstatic we agreed to meet his totally normal, trustworthy friends. And poor Iman is traumatized. And she's impressed we stood up to Waller. She appreciated our honest answers to her questions, but she's traumatized because of what she went through with Riddler. Let's jump to episode 2 here. I don't know how interesting this is hearing me babble about this, but I like listening to this kind of stuff for other people, so I'm switching between different pictures. There we go. So, episode 2, The Pact. So we know that Amanda Waller knows our identity, which sucks because she's not a nice person and not trustworthy at all. And we are dealing with a group of villains called the Pact, which are made up of Harley Quinn, Bane, and Mr. Freeze, and the Riddler, and probably John. And our first battle is with Bane, he's Bane, he's ridiculously strong. And a poor mechanic gets killed saving us. That was the most badass mechanic ever. So, F for Chip. Very cool dude. Didn't deserve that. I called Gordon for help instead of Waller. So, Waller continues to dislike us. We got our butt kicked. I'm not sure how we're still alive. Like, really. Like, how does Batman survive most of this? We decide to infiltrate the Pact using John Doe. I did everything I can to not use him. I tried to be as honest as possible because I'm a nice person. We get harassed by one of John's drunk friends. I resolved it peacefully by buying him more beer. And we meet this game's version of Harley Quinn. And she and the Joker have a really interesting relationship here, although John is just John at this point. Like in the animated series, Joker was flat out abusive to Harley and she like worshipped him. Here it's kind of the other way around. Harley is very vicious and clearly is just using John, and John is all like fangirly over her. He is to her like I was to Harvey in season 1 and continue to be in season 2. So this is the scene where we had the thing with the car window. It's not considered a major choice, even though it should be, but I drank from the slushie because I am way too afraid to say no to Harley at this moment because she's very murdery. We go to steal the Phalanx key from Wayne Enterprises, and Tiffany turns out to be in the vault. Oh, I did aggressively stop Harley from harassing Regina, which I'm surprised that I did, but she seemed to enjoy it. Harley seemed to enjoy it, so Tiffany's in the vault. She has the key, and I continue to be truthful to her. I tell her about how her father was working for Batman, and I ask her to trust me with the key. And apparently I picked the right options because she trusts me and hands over the key, and this can go very differently if you haven't been honest with her. But, so, we leave with the key. And we meet, I think we meet with Gordon again, because we chose to help him. We end up going to join the pact, and Bruce is wearing this ridiculous outfit, and my first thought when I looked at him was someone has to have taken this image and made one of those hello fellow kids memes, because that was my first thought the minute I saw him. It's just so funny. Like, this is how the common street hoods dress, right? So we meet the rest of the bad guys. Mr. Freeze does not get a lot to do in this. He's a little bit more murdery, but, you know, I like Mr. Freeze. We also get to go to John's little house, and he has all these pictures on his walls, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, he has to have a picture that has him with someone who has Bruce's head taped over them, and he does. He totally has a picture like that, which I thought was really funny. So we go do a heist of sorts with the team, and we get an option to head off Harley or head off Bane. And I chose to head off Bane because Bane, they're both pretty murderous, but even Harley says that Bane, like, really wants people to get killed. So it's like, let's get in his way because he's far more likely to claim victims. Oh, and so we get back. Joker's upset that Harley is not there. And then Catwoman arrives. And it turns out the thing that we stole was the Riddler's corpse. That's weird. Not sure what's going on there. Like, what do the bad guys want with the Riddler's corpse? And so, relationships. Yeah, Tiffany is worried. She's surprised we told her Lucius worked with Batman, appreciated that we let her choose to trust us. It's a really weird thing to say. And even though we convinced her to trust us, she's concerned for our safety. So this is better than her being angry at us. Alfred is content. He approved that we're going to be honest with Tiffany because we told him that we'd tell Tiffany that we're Batman. He's proud when we told him that he always does the right thing. And our conversation in the parlor gave him a renewed sense of purpose. Gordon's worried as well. He's glad that we called him to help, honored that we worked alongside him against Waller. But because we told him the truth about Waller knowing our identity, he's worried that she might expose us. Waller is also content, even though she's frustrated that we asked her to consider Gordon. And that's really weirdly phrased. I think that means when we're like, you know, don't demote him or whatever. Or talk to him or whatever. She disapproved of us calling Gordon instead of her to help. But because we agreed to work with her while undercover, our relationship with her is positive. Also, poor John is sad. He's overjoyed that we pinky swore. That was a really funny scene. He was intrigued by the way we handled Willie, but because Harley was left behind, he was heartbroken. See, that's the thing, is that there's usually like just one choice at the end that has a really big impact. Harley is angry. She's annoyed we made her apologize to Regina. She liked how we retrieved the Phalanx key, but because we fought with Bane instead of her, she feels slighted. Yeah, and like the choices, convinced Tiffany to hand over the key. We reached out to Gordon in our time of need. Tried to calm down Willie with a drink. Attempted to minimize casualties in the convoy raid by following Bane, undermining his rampage at every opportunity. And we accepted John's offer of a pinky swear, becoming friends for life. To our next choice thingy. So, episode 3, Fractured Mask. Let's see, where do we start? So yeah, Catwoman showed up. And for those of you that don't remember, I did not romance her, and we parted on friendly terms. And I will continue to not romance her because I am still in love with Harvey and eagerly awaiting his return to society. So we do a really gross retinal scan thing with the Riddler's body. Talk up Catwoman while we're doing that. Harley returns and she is super mad. She's all bossy with us because she wants the laptop to be unencrypted so she can tell where the thing that she wants is. They're very secretive about it. So we go with John and Catwoman to investigate. And turns out the thing that they're after is like some super dangerous stuff, which I know, shocking. Oh yeah, we ran into Detective Bullock, random new character who looks like Danny DeVito. Also named Harvey. I chose to punch him in the face. I don't normally do stuff like that, but our options were bribe him, knock him out, or basically let John hit him with a crowbar. And it's like, I didn't want to bribe him, because even if he accepts, it's like, that's not a good thing. You're a cop. We have enough problems in this city, and if I let John hit him with a crowbar, it's going to end badly, so I just socked him. I think there's a convince option, but I didn't think it was a good one, so I just punched him. Really not enough comeuppance for that, considering we were Bruce at the time. But so Selina betrays us, but she betrays us for a good reason, because she wants to stop the bad guys. So like I can't entirely fault her on that one, so she runs off with the stuff that we need and successfully steals the laptop. This is where I saw some Let's Players get a different scene. Like, Gordon gets really mad at us for not wanting to bring in Bruce Wayne, and I'm just sitting here just being like, can we tell him we're Batman? Like, I was just getting so annoyed because it's just like, I feel like this would be so much easier if he knew. Because he really gets angry with us and threatens to go after Catwoman and tells us we better not warn her. And Alfred's like, well, if he warns her, you know, that might stop her from going after the laptop. But I chose to warn her because she's doing the right thing. And this is where it led to a completely different scene. Like, for me, because I warned her, I ended up having to fight her for the laptop. I kept things friendly and invited her to Wayne Manor into the Batcave. Someone else, John, ends up getting the laptop instead, gives it to Batman. You can teach him how to use a batarang. And then poor Catwoman shows up at the manor just like covered in bruises, and you can end up fighting her again. And just, wow. I don't know what happened to her that the GCPD was able to do that much damage. Like, jeez. I think Alfred said something about a murder accident or something, or whatever. Or, not murder accident, motorcycle accident. But anyway. So, John asks us for advice. I told him to be himself, you know, and this is another one that can lead to two very different conversations. I think the be yourself one is fun because they do some role play as Harley and Joker, and it's really funny. But, we tell him to be himself, and then he starts talking about, like, the darkness inside him trying to break free, and it's like, you know what? Suppress that. Because it's like, don't become the Joker. And I couldn't say pull her strings, because that just sounds like a bad idea. Yeah, this was actually before the informed Catwoman choice. I think I got a little ahead of myself. So let's see where we at. Okay, we get arrested, semi-arrested for like 5 seconds because Tiffany tells the very anti-Bruce at the time, Gordon, about our actions, and we get put in cuffs, but then Waller comes and Gordon's super angry and he gets fired, and we defend him, but he gets mad that we defend him. And it's just like, can we tell him we're Batman? We tell Tiffany we're Batman instead. I mean, we get the option to, and I chose to tell her because it's just like, you know, smarter. But yeah. So we end up getting interrogated by Harley in her office because they figured out there's a mole and they're trying to figure out who it is. And it basically comes down to, do you take the blame or do you say it's Catwoman? And I chose to say it's Catwoman because this is a choice that drives me crazy. Because in this situation, you are in the bad guy's lair, in Harley's room. Harley is in a very murderous mood. So it's like, Catwoman is not, to the best of our knowledge, there. She's also, like, they don't know where she is, presumably. She's very good at getting out of tight spots. So to me, it makes the most sense to say she's the mole, because, like, if we say it's us, they're going to just kill us on the spot, and there's very little chance we're going to be able to escape, especially since we're Bruce and not Batman right now. So it's like, yeah, we'll just say it's Catwoman. We'll leave. We'll be like, hey, Catwoman, calling you up to let you know this happened. And, like, I would feel like even Catwoman would understand why we did that, because it's the smartest choice in this situation. They're also about to go on this big heist where a lot of innocent people are going to be in harm's way, and, you know, they're just going to kill them if we're not there. But then we leave the room, and Catwoman ends up getting brought in. So apparently they actually managed to capture her in, like, 2 seconds. But, like, what's really weird is, like, she doesn't know this conversation took place. There's no moment where they tell her that we outed her as the murderer. They just, like, lock her up and then we leave. And, like, we actively try to help Catwoman, but we're held at gunpoint. And yet, no matter what, because Catwoman ended up blamed, she blames you and calls it karma, like, later. And it just seems kind of silly. Like, I think this is a terrible choice. It doesn't make any real sense to me. I think it would have been better if the two of you were brought in together and you had to betray her to her face. That's like, okay, then you can be a little mad. But even then, I should think you'd understand a little bit, maybe. But her not being there kind of just ruins it. Oh, where's my choices thing? So we left Harley feeling less skeptical. She was unconvinced by our defense that we weren't the mole, unimpressed by our stance on dealing with traitors, but felt less skeptical because we ratted out Catwoman. Gordon, I was surprised when it said Gordon was remorseful. He was annoyed that we helped out Catwoman. He was relieved that Bruce didn't resist arrest, but because we tried to, speak out for him after he got fired, he actually feels remorseful about trying to arrest us, even though that is not how he acted in the scene. We left John feeling valued. He took to heart our advice to be genuine, felt sorry for letting us down when he couldn't retrieve the laptop, but felt appreciated when we outed Catwoman together. We're still positive with Waller somehow. Says she feels we did something to make her feel aligned with us. She was miffed that we didn't accept her apology about the convoy. Felt superior when we pushed back against her desire to use the villains in the Black Site raid, and was proud of us for keeping our cover even when the stakes were high. I'm guessing that's about the betrayal. Yeah, and then this is one where we left Selena feeling betrayed. Grateful that we warned her about the GCPD, honored we let her see the Batcave, but because we gave her up to Harley, she feels betrayed, even though she doesn't know this happened. Oh, Tiffany's feeling honored. She's valued that we took the time to let her apologize and explain, and honored that we let her in on the Batman secret. So yeah, we warned Catwoman, she avoided GCPD and stole Harley's laptop before John. We coached John to be himself, and he told us about his time in Arkham. He gave a really nice little poem. Very, very, very surprising. We told Tiffany our secret, and we let John throw Catwoman under the bus, and she is now in mortal danger. That's what they say us anyway. So, episode 4, What Ails You? This one has, like, 2 choice moments. So, we go to the spa where the virus is. I do everything I can to try and save people. I don't know why they didn't put this choice on the end, since there's very few official choices, but I chose to save the guard over the scientist, because, like, the scientists are experimenting on innocent people. I don't think the guards are any better, but that was my thought process. I've injured so many people despite my non-injure policy against innocents. I feel bad about it. So we destroy most of the samples of the virus. But Harley gets away with one. Mr. Freeze ends up trapped in a room and gets infected. And Waller is being suspicious, and it's not really surprising. Also, it turns out Avesta was the one who told her about our identity, which, how did she even know? Like, that seems a little out of nowhere. But she suggests we interrogate Mr. Freeze, and he agrees to help us if we promise to lower the temperature so that he can try and fight the virus. I did keep this promise. I like Mr. Freeze, and no one deserves to be Waller's slave or a test subject or whatever. That's horrible. But, so he tells us about where Harley is. We go to back to the hideout, and we end up finding poor John drunk and with a black eye that Harley apparently gave him. And we trust him to find Harley on his own. And Tiffany comes over. We speak with her a bit. Not too much happens. Like, overall, it feels like not a lot happens in this episode. But we end up... John tells us where Harley is. We go to, like, this fun house, and he's surrounded by bodies. And he claims that he killed them in self-defense, but there's holes in the story. And you basically get a choice about whether or not you choose to believe him or not believe him. And it's like, I don't know what really happened. His story clearly has a bunch of problems, but I chose to say that we believed him because, you know, he's not mentally well. And I feel like if we say, I don't believe you, it's just going to make things end badly. So, because I trusted him, the two of us go to find Harley together on the bridge. And we try to reason with her, doesn't really go so well. So John attempts to reason with her. And, you know, Waller is like, oh no, this isn't going well. We have to intervene. I talk her down. And John successfully subdues Harley. And he's like, oh, Bruce taught me how to be nice. But then, stupid freaking Waller screws everything up. And, because John's like... John has the virus now. And John is like, I don't think I should give this virus to you. I don't think anyone should have it. And it's like, yes, I agree completely. Because no one should have this terrible virus. Because we know Waller's planning to use it to blackmail the villains into slavery, which is creepy. So it's like, no one should have it. Totally agreed. So freaking Waller pulls a gun on John. And this causes John to snap. Because she's flat out planning to just kill him and take the virus. And he calls the agency out on their nonsense, and again, honestly, he's completely right. Like, it really does suck that they're operating the way that they are, and they can just get away with it. He ends up blowing up the bridge and jumping off of it, sort of. And the episode ends. And so, basically, if you trust John, and if you let him subdue Harley, those are, like, the big choices that depend how things will go for episode 5. Also, I chose to stop the person attacking John instead of stopping John, so Amanda Waller got stabbed. Not that it shows, like, she seems to be totally fine. That was weird. But, look at their choices here. So, because of our choices, Joker John became a vigilante. He was despondent when we told him Harley betrayed us, appreciated that we allowed him to find Harley by himself, and we've earned his trust. He's determined that we'll clean up Gotham together. Tiffany's apologetic. She felt solemn after learning about our code and apologized for questioning it. Alfred is proud of us. He was reluctant when we addressed his illness, but we made him cheerful by mentioning a vacation, and he was proud when we advised Tiffany thoughtfully about Batman's code, which is no killing. And then they got this funny picture of Waller where she's just, like, super ticked because we left her feeling livid. She was supportive when we showed focus in going after Harley. She was glad when we agreed Sanctus Tech could be useful, but then became livid after we sided with John on a bridge. Everything bad that happens following this is her fault. Actually, the stuff before it might be her fault too. We left Avesta feeling gratified. She was relieved when we told her we didn't hold her telling Waller about our identity against her, flustered by what we said about Batman's code, and she was gratified when we cautioned her about when we were, telling her to be careful about destroying Riddler's blood. And then there's the two choices. We showed Mr. Freeze compassion by lowering the temperature, and told John that we trusted Harley to find himself. I don't know why the did you believe in John or not are not considered choices. Because you'd think, right? So, last episode, same Stitch, which again is a completely different episode depending on whether John is the vigilante Joker or the villain Joker. So, ours is the vigilante one. And yeah, he's done a lot in the short amount of time we've been separated. He's got a crew, he's changed his appearance, and he's going all out war against the agency. And there's a pretty cool scene where we go in to the area, and the agency is about to just gun down 3 of Joker's people, who are just dudes in clown makeup. Like, they haven't really done anything. I don't even think they're armed or anything. They're at the mercy of the agency, and when they won't tell them, like, where Joker is, they're just like, let's kill him, which is horrible. So we save them as Batman, and then Joker shows up to help us out. And John became very capable very fast. And again, pretty decent fight scene. Bane is thrown at us, and he's wearing a collar, which is horrible. And he's terrifying now. They've like upped his venom thing, and I don't know much about this venom stuff, but it seems really toxic. It looks like radioactive. Bane eventually snaps and tries to kill the agent who tried to kill Joker's people earlier, and we're put in a situation where we can either save that agent or save one of Joker's men. I save one of Joker's men because Agent Harrison seems like a jerk, and nobody likes him. And Waller's apparently telling people that John murdered the Riddler, and he clearly did not, and he's super angry about being accused about this, and he thinks Waller did it. So, yeah. We get patched up by Alfred. We take care of the virus by putting it in our car's conveniently the right size virus ruiner. I don't know why we have something like that. And Waller threatens to out our identity if we don't hand over Joker, so we meet with Avesta and get dirt on her. And then her little mini Suicide Squad shows up when we reveal the blackmail, which includes Bane, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman, apparently. And I ended up asking for her to let Catwoman go, because, like, the other options, I think, were, like, put Harley and Bane in jail or something else, and it was, like, the Catwoman thing made the most sense. But she's like, I'll let Catwoman go if you hand over John, and I stayed silent because I can't hand over John. And he put off a bunch of bombs. We got hurt really bad, but again recovered super fast. Everyone gets healed like super fast in this universe, I swear. Also, Joker ends up kidnapping Waller and takes her away. And I took Tiffany to the scene where the fired but still sort of doing cop things non-Commissioner Gordon is there too, and he apologizes and we accept his apology because why wouldn't we? And we managed to find where Joker is, and I mean, like, I'll give Waller credit for one thing: she does not buckle under pressure. Like, she's still standing strong even if she's being threatened. And then Joker's, like, about to kill her because he believes she killed Riddler. Tiffany reveals that she's the one who killed Riddler, which I knew about, but yeah, so we end up having this big fight with Joker, and he's just getting increasingly more crazy and laughing, and just we keep fighting each other, punching each other, and eventually we both collapse, and he asks us if, like, we ever thought of him as a friend, because he knew we were using him, and I said we did, because, you know, John is our friend. And we come to in an ambulance. We talk with Waller. I ended up getting her to release Catwoman since I saved her life. We get to deal with Tiffany ourselves. I chose to forgive her and have her be mentored by us, which, it seems like the nice thing to do, because, her family got messed up by what the Riddler did, and she probably did save a lot of lives by killing him. And then we return to the manor, and there's this scene where Alfred wants to leave. And, part of his argument I can understand, where he can't handle it anymore, and he hates, Bruce always coming back injured, and he's terrified that Bruce is going to get himself killed. But they also try to do the thing where it's like Batman is creating all these villains, and I think in, the other universes, the animated series and, the comics or whatever, I think that kind of argument might work better. It doesn't work here, because Alfred brings up Joker, Harvey, Cobblepot, and Lady Arkham, and is like, they're all connected by one thing, Batman, and basically tries to imply we created them, and it's like, Joker's one thing, that would require an entirely, separate video to address, but, the others, Cobblepot and Lady Arkham were created because of the actions of Thomas Wayne, and they chose to take their hatred for him out on his son. This would have happened whether or not Batman existed, and in fact, both of them seemed to hold a certain respect for Batman initially. Batman didn't create those villains, and his existence did not worsen them. So, that's a really weird, random thing to say. We're not at fault for them, and honestly, if Batman hadn't existed, the damage they had caused would have been a lot more horrific. And then Harvey was mentally ill way before we ever came into his life, and even his descent into madness was not caused by us. It was caused by the events of the debate, which would have happened no matter what, because, as I pointed out, we did not create Cobblepot or Lady Arkham. And again, it probably would have been worse, because we wouldn't have been there as Batman to stop it. So, yeah, and plus, the other big thing that affected him was Bruce being with Selina, which, that's semi-Batman related, but I don't know. He still was going downhill either way, and he probably would have gotten his face injured too, because we wouldn't have been there to save him, so I don't think this argument works in this thing, but Alfred wants to leave, and I ended up giving up being Batman to stay with Alfred, because, family first. And there's a really cute scene after the credits, where Bruce goes to visit John in the asylum, where he's all sad. And it was just such a nice, sweet, nice scene though. So, it's our choices thingy. So how did we end with everybody? Harley ended as an agency asset. We dismissed her importance to the agency. She's ecstatic that the heist at Wayne Enterprises went off without a hitch. Furious the pack abandoned her at the convoy raid. Genuinely came to trust us after we exposed Catwoman. Was heartbroken when we convinced John to subdue her. And while she still works for the agency, she worries she's another one of Waller's pawns. It feels like a plot line that needed to be followed up. Amanda Waller is still the director of the agency, and we remain in a stalemate with her. She is furious we tampered with her witness, disapproved of us calling Gordon after our fight with Bane, thankful we maintained our cover, declared us an enemy of the state for siding with John Doe. It was still all her fault. And though our stalemate with her stands, she left Gotham as your enemy. I grappled away from her twice. I think I said why the first time. The second time, it was because she got on our case, oh, you act all high and mighty, and then none of the options were good, and then there was just grapple away, and it's yep, bye. Me and Jim Gordon are partners. He never did get officially reinstated. He was humbled that we trusted him with our association with Lucius. When Waller berated us for tampering with her witness, he supported us. Felt trusted when we called him following Bane's attack. Disgusted that we sided with Catwoman. But he was grateful that we forgave him. Oh, Catwoman is free. She's on the prowl because we helped her. When I play this, it's you and 0.1% of players helped her go free. So after her return to Gotham, she was relieved when we said we thought her redemption was possible, touched that we went against Gordon to warn her, honored to be invited into the Batcave, felt betrayed when we blamed her for the theft of the laptop, which is again a stupid choice, and we called in our deal with Waller, leaving her free. Tiffany is our protege. No idea how that's going to be handled since we're not Batman anymore. Felt betrayed when we admitted our involvement in Lucius's death. Worried when we helped Harley steal the key. Regretted calling the police on us. Confused, then blown away when she learned we were Batman. Now she's repenting for Riddler's murder under our mentorship. And Amana Vesta is the COO, the coup of Wayne Enterprises. We offered her a job. She's traumatized by losing her hearing in Riddler's game and playing the game. Thankful we let it slide that she revealed our identity. Intrigued that we trusted John Doe. And after helping to blackmail Waller, she's hopeful about her new position at Wayne Enterprises, because she was worried and decided to quit her job. Alfred is our family, and we gave up being Batman for him. Felt vengeful after watching the footage of Lucius's death. Relieved that we didn't keep our secret from Tiffany. Was reassured when we offered him a vacation. Became concerned about Batman's influence on Vigilante Joker. And when we decided to give up the cowl, he was cautiously optimistic about our shared future. And John Doe is our fallen friend, and we told him we were still friends. He was thrilled we agreed to meet as friends at the funeral. Heartbroken when Harley was left behind. Grateful we blamed Catwoman. After we trusted him in the funhouse, he devoted himself to helping clean up Gotham. And he thinks you're crazy for considering yourselves friends. And I like Vigilante Joker, and I think his anger against the agency is justified. His anger against Waller is justified, too, because it's oh, she just gets to leave. That's it. She doesn't get any comeuppance. And, I very much agree with this way of thinking. He went too far, but he's so right. So, yeah, we saved Willie, took Tiffany out into the field, refused to hand over Joker, told Alfred we would give up being Batman, and defeated Vigilante Joker. I don't know why that last one's a choice. That's not really a choice. We can't not defeat him. So, that's it for Telltale's Batman Season 2, Enemy Within. I think it was pretty solid overall. In some ways, I wish it had touched more upon the events of the first game, what happened with Lady Arkham. I think they handled Cobblepot fine. I do wish we'd gotten another update on Harvey, but it makes sense that we didn't, since the last thing we learn is that, he's got 2 months to prepare for his trial, so it kind of makes sense that they wouldn't have an update yet, because it hasn't been 2 months. But, yeah, we never did learn more about that little boy either. I wish we'd gotten something there. It also would have been nice to visit one of our old friends in the asylum, or in, was it Blackgate or whatever? But that doesn't happen. Kind of a bummer, but still overall pretty quality season. I really loved what they did with the Joker. I thought their take on him was really interesting. And it's super cool that episode 5 can be completely different. Telltale still has a long way to go when it comes to our choices, but they're making steps. So now that they've apparently come back, so I'm not super excited about their current new game, because it doesn't, I don't know the source material, it doesn't really interest me, but I might play it, who knows. But this video has been way too long. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment, let me know what you thought of the game, maybe share your choices, and I will see you next time. Bye!